King, are you taking part in this demonstration as an individual or as a wife?
Well, I'm taking part as an individual and a wife. I'm both.
Martin Luther King wrestled with coming out publicly, taking a stand against the war in Vietnam. But Mrs. King was involved in the anti-war movement long before. So she had a lot of influence on Martin Luther King coming to that conclusion.
I come to express my own personal witness for the cause of peace.
And in the civil rights struggle, if we win all of the rights and privileges that we are fighting for and have no world in which to exercise these, then there is really no need for our efforts.
I decided that I would leave it to my wife to take the stands and make the meetings on the peace issue. But I came to the conclusion that I could no longer be a silent onlooker, but that in some real way I had to be an involved and concerned participant.
Andy Young called me. I was the executive director of the group that wanted to stop the war and engage the religious community to help do that. So Andy proposed that Dr. King give a speech in New York, and Dr. King decided to make a full-blown statement. So I said, well, what about Riverside Church? Because I think place makes a big difference.
When he came to the Vietnamese speech, he struggled with it. And I remember very much because he wrote a big part of it in our home. I have on my wall in the hallway a copy of his writings and the notes that he made. He had a habit of using a yellow pad, constantly making notes, and he'd crumble up these things at the end of an evening and toss it away. And I'd just do a swan dive right into the garbage pail and retrieve those papers, because he always left some really profound sentence or something that I thought was worth retrieving and saving.
Dr. King knew where his heart was, but he also knew the criticism and the splits that would happen the moment he said anything against the war in Vietnam. And of course, he did.
The night of April 4th, 1967, I believe that Martin Luther King Jr. delivered probably one of the most powerful speeches I ever heard him deliver.
Ladies and gentlemen,
he said in effect that he was not going to butcher his conscience.
I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government.
He said, as a nation, we talk about nonviolence here in America, and then we engage in violence abroad. He said, in effect, that the bombs that were dropping in Vietnam, they would be shattered over America.
Dr. King was worried that the government had gotten us into war where we didn't need to be, and that we were hurting ourselves. The returning veterans, the inflation, the unemployment, the consequences of the war.
He literally poured out his heart, the depth and essence of his soul. I've heard many sermons. I was at the March on Washington, but I think the speech at Riverside Church was his best.
If America's soul becomes totally poisoned, part of the autopsy must read Vietnam.
When the speech ended, the place exploded, and I knew it was electric. I knew he had hit it out of the park. But the next morning, he was blasted in virtually every editorial column in America.
Some of us didn't want him to be that hard in the speech, but he said, I'm trapped by my own, beliefs. And I think that was one of the things that J. Edgar Hoover used to try to turn the government completely against him.
Dr. King took on our government in wartime. He was taking on angry people and misguided people in wartime.
Stick with civil rights. We go on to the generals. Back to Hanoi.
He said, many of my friends are turning on me, many of my Morehouse friends, my classmates. Preachers have said I can't come in their pulpits because we shouldn't be engaged in the war.
He said, you expect your enemies to disagree with you. What I didn't understand is how our friends would leave me. They stopped giving, they stopped calling, they stopped caring, and he was devastated.
Change is painful. The loneliness and what it must have felt like when he was so abandoned by so many and told to stay in your place.
He really felt betrayed. And he said over and over, they don't know me.
They applauded me. I told Negroes to be nonviolent. These same people are damning me when I say you ought to be nonviolent toward little brown children in Vietnam.
The way all of America turned on him when he stepped into the Vietnam drama was perhaps the single most challenging moment for Martin.